I don't want to get into Catholic Orthodox polemics, but I wonder, can I propose something to you in light of everything we've been saying, this way of thinking and hierarchies and gatherings and all that? An argument that Johann Adam Müller, he was one of the so-called Tübingen school, early 19th century, that had a big impact on later theology and eventually Vatican II. He makes this argument in his dialogue with Protestants about the papacy. He said every community needs some visible unifying, principle. So a parish needs a pastor that gathers the people around himself. A diocese. So I'm bishop of a diocese here, and that's in a way my purpose. I've got a juridical role. I make certain practical judgments and financial decisions and so on. But my basic job here is to gather the people of this diocese. I'm the sign and instrument of their unity. So Müller says the entire Christian family needs a singular figure who gathers the many into the one. So it was not so much a juridical argument, it was I would say, mystical, symbolic kind of argument. How would you engage that, let's say from an Orthodox perspective? I think that's how I would defend the papacy as a very important element within Christianity.
So I think, how can I say this? It's like, I think that Christ foresaw in some ways this issue. And the way that Christ foresaw it is not just the way Christ foresaw it. It's there in the very structure of the biblical story, which is that God puts an intermediary. God sets a representative for him in the world. And that representative is constantly, it's important, but it's also constantly in danger of becoming prideful.
Yeah.
And I think that in the story of St. Peter, Christ does it in a crazy way, because he says, you are the stone on which I'm going to build my church, and then he turns around and he says, get behind me, Satan, right away. So the intermediary can easily become the opponent. And I think that, I think that the primacy of Peter, which is something that the entire church recognized in the first centuries, at least for the rest of the church, for the Orthodox church, at some point it seemed that it was the pride of Peter that we were facing, and that Peter was acting like a king that was trying to basically control everything. And I think that the consequences of that, whether it is the difficulty of the Eastern Christian Catholic churches, and the conflicts that were born in those realities are still live, and they make it difficult, I think, for the church to fully come back together, and I don't think that it's impossible. I think that eschatologically, and so maybe some Orthodox will be annoyed that I say that, but I think that eschatologically we have to see a return of the body, in order for the bride to receive the bridegroom. But I really don't see that. I think that at least for now, the Orthodox tradition represents a powerful check on Peter's pride, which is inevitable in some ways.
Yeah, think of John Paul II, in 1995 proposes, is there a new way we could think about this? Pope Francis recently kind of reiterated that. Is there a new way we could imagine the Petrine primacy and so on?
But it's a scary thing. And I say this even as an Orthodox Christian, is that the strength of Peter and the strength of the Catholic Church is its capacity for central action and its capacity to mobilize.
Right.
The weakness of the Orthodox Church is its fractiousness, and it is fractious. They can't even have a synod. But at least for now, with everything that's happening in the world, I am grateful for the sins of the Orthodox Church. In the sense, I'm grateful for their fractiousness, because the world is moving in directions that is so frightening that if centralized action was made completely possible, we might see rather dark things happening in the future. And I like the fact that we can't actually reach consensus, because it's not clear that consensus, at least at this moment, would be something that we would want.
Right. And one reason I'm attracted to the Johann Adam Müller argument is, again, it's more symbolic. It's the sort of sacramental quality of the unity of the church that the Pope would embody. Now, indeed, we're priest, prophet, and king. So there's the archetype of Christ. And so the high priest of the church Pope. Prophet, he's the one that adjudicates disputes, so
Yeah.
he's the final word. But also king,
Yeah.
he's also the one that makes decisions practically about how the church is to move in the world. I would recognize all three of those as important, but I totally get, you're right about the original scene in the Gospels, and Peter right away is named as a problem just after being named the rock.
But I think we'll see a beautiful. I trust God and I trust Christ, and I think that we will see the story that we see in Scripture, the Peter story that we see in Scripture. We'll see it play out as well, which is the beautiful image of how Peter encounters Christ after the resurrection. Is one of the most beautiful images in Scripture, where
Feed
Peter,
my sheep and feed my lambs.
he actually, and you have to see it, not just that, you have to see it in line with the story of Peter trying to walk on water. Because now he doesn't even try to walk on water. He dives into the water.
Yeah.
And he dives in order to encounter his risen Lord. And then Christ basically tells him what his function is. And so, I think that, I believe that we will see something like that happen. I don't know when. I don't know. Is it completely eschatological? But I don't see there's another way. Yeah. So.
Do you read him there as sinful Adam? He's naked, but then throws on clothes before he comes to the Lord. So he's.
It's a fascinating image because it doesn't make sense, right? Narratively. Like, why is he actually putting on? And I think it does have to do with. This is going to sound weird to people because they don't know the way that. Like, I think it has to do with the healing of Malchus's ear. Actually, it has to do with Christ making the exterior whole, right? It has to do with the heavenly city, and so it's not that you remove the garments anymore, like remove the sandals in order to enter this central place. It's that Christ is making the garments full, like in the transfiguration of Christ's garment becoming illumined. I think that's what's happening in that story where Peter actually now puts it all on in order to come into his final encounter with Christ.
It is weird, isn't it? In the New American Bible, I think some years ago, the translation of the word is gymnos in Greek, naked, right? It says Peter was lightly clad. Well, it's not lightly clad. The fact that why would he be naked in the boat? I mean, I get maybe I get lightly clad, but why would you be naked in the boat?
Well, it's reference to Genesis.
Unless there's something going on.
It's a reference to Genesis.
Yeah, all that, and Adam ashamed in the presence of the Lord.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think there's something about all of that.
Yeah.
Adam ashamed in the presence of the Lord is a good image. Yeah.
Yeah.